Little different flair today. So it's March the 2nd, and let's look at the stats. Well, we have 21 days of inventory. That could be an issue. We'll see. People are probably getting ready to list their homes for April, May, June. So I think this number is going to go up, but we'll see. We'll see around the 15th of March how we're faring out. But I think that more and more people are going to start listing their homes. Whether it was not cold this morning, which was nice. I didn't walk outside, however. John and I resumed our fitness center membership. And so we went to the fitness center this morning. So I am a little bit behind, but that's okay. I will get it all together tomorrow. 117 sales a day so far. That means yesterday, basically, because the recorded sales haven't happened yet for today. Last March, now I checked into why this number was so high for last March 1st. And it was so high because March 1st last year was a Monday. So all those closings that happened on Friday probably got posted for Monday. So I think over time, that too will, I don't know, it might hinder us a little bit for our competition from 2022 to 2021, but we'll see. I haven't changed the $436,000 median price yet. It did go up to, excuse me, $450,000. But I'd like to let that season a little bit and see what's going to happen for this month. We still have 454 homes under 436,000. And a lot more goes up into the 500s when you look at the 450. So we'll see. The interesting thing today that I want to let you know is that, let me cough for just a second. Hold please. Hang on. Okay, I think I'm done. Honey, if you have a chance, can you get me some water? If you're busy, that's okay. Okay. A lot of ums this morning. Let me think here. Oh, yeah, the $1 million homes have jumped up to almost 4. Last year, we were at 4.5. And like I told you at the beginning of the year, I think this number is going to steadily go up. And it possibly could exceed last year. Last year, we were selling $4.5 million homes a day. And I think this year we're going to exceed that. We'll see. My predictions. Investors still around 43 homes per day. And about 16% of those are institutional investors. So there's a lot of mom and pops out there that are buying and selling homes. So if that's your market, and one of the things about the owner occupied homes, when you have, if you look at who bought, you can go on Remine or go on your stats and your MLS, and you can see who bought the homes in the past couple days, and then see how many they bought over time. So they may be in the market to sell some of the homes that they bought. Thank you, dear. Some of the homes that they bought previously because of the equity, and they might want to buy a newer home. And I, even in our own property management, I tell people, you've owned this home like 30 years, or this home is 30 years old, you've owned it 10 years, whatever it is, because of the appreciation that's occurred since the foreclosure bust. They have a lot of equity, and they could even take that equity and buy maybe 2 more investment homes. And one of the things that I will give you my insight, and from what I hear from the economists, this year in Vegas, our homes are going to continue to increase in value, maybe even as much as 15%. So if they buy a home today, they sell their home that has all that equity in, you sell it for them, and then they buy 2 more homes that are possibly newer, and maybe we'll get more rent. So you have to do a little homework. This is a job, man. And you could possibly get them more cash flow while the interest rates are low. And it could be a great scenario, a great phone call, great, hey, let me come over and talk to you, or let's do a Zoom and let me show you, the numbers. I think that people, the agents that start doing things like this this year, I'm going to look forward to getting into those mid six figures faster than you could believe, because the word spreads. Investors talk to investors. And this is a great time to give them their financial analysis of how they could sell that home, buy two homes, what the rents would be, what the mortgage would be, and the cash flow. So anyway, lots of things for you to think about. Okay, so let's move on today. I want to talk about new homes for just 1 second, because we hit an all-time record with new homes, which is pretty cool. I don't think I have the chart. No, I don't. Builders opened only 4 new communities in January, which brought just over 300 lots into the market. So on the other hand, 5 communities closing out, including Burson Ranch and Beezer Homes in the outlying town of Pahrump. And these communities were significant and interesting because they were initially victims of the Great Recession, 2008, right? First, online in January 2008, builders were looking to move into the outlying areas for cheaper land and more affordable housing. Sound familiar, right? Well, the initial phase of the community sold 40 homes before being shut down in 2012. But the decision to bring the project back to life in January 2017 turned out to be such an excellent decision, as one of the 2 product lines ended up averaging over 11 net sales per month during the second go-round. So they rebounded. The interesting thing, though, moving on into the Las Vegas area, is that we got 1,413 new home permits for January. That's a 28% increase over last year. And the new homes, we had 722 closings. And that's also a 17% increase over last year, January. We're talking January. I get the Las Vegas housing market letter, and they really do their homework and their stats, and it does take them a good several weeks to accumulate this information, but it doesn't matter. It's all good. The 1,722 new home sale closings in January was a 2% increase from January of 2021. As we mentioned here, but January, and the point I'm trying to make is January is historically the lowest performing month for new home closings. And that is awesome. And there were 591 single family detached closings in January, which is a 7% year-to-year increase from January of 2021. Attached products closed 131 units. So that's a 14% increase. The point is that the builders are building more homes. They're buying more land. Land is flying off the shelf right now, little pockets here and there across the valley. But let's talk about farming. By the way, I always advise people to farm those new communities and become the realtor of that community. Anyway, we move on. Let's hide this today, and we're gonna talk about the farming, and farming is a system, not like a transaction. And I think there's a gold mine. There's a gold mine in the reverse mortgage world with people over 62. And we talked about this yesterday. We showed you the stats of how many people, 10,000 people turn 65 every day. There's 97,000 centurions out there, first time in history. 97,000 people over 100 years old. So if 10,000 people are turning 65 every day, people are living longer, this market, this is a sweet spot in the market. And I talked to some very bright people yesterday that are going to take this by storm, and you can too. There's plenty to go around. 39% of the people in Las Vegas are seniors, right? This is a retirement destination town. So today I want to show you, and we talked a little bit about this yesterday. I want to show you today, and I apologize yesterday because there was some audio, something going on with the audio, but I will check my phone to make sure that that has been corrected. Anyway, just saying, I told you yesterday I was going to give you 3 scenarios, because what you have to do, and I'm chunking this up in little 15 to 20 minute videos so that you can just, okay, if you want to watch the stats, which was yesterday, and today we're going to go over some scenarios. And once you see these scenarios and you can parrot them and be able to explain them to people, I think you're just going to up your income probably 6 digits, because there's so many people that have misconceptions about reverse mortgages. So I'm going to be quiet and I'm going to do this today. Okay, here we go.
When this comes up, you throw money in the equation, and I would suggest looking at the adjustable. It does have a cap on it, but it is subject to adjustment based on interest rates, or there are fixed ones as well. There's a HECM for purchase, which is primarily where you guys are going to spend most of your time. You have somebody that's looking to make a purchase, they qualify. The max payment amount for the FHA is $978,000. The home can be worth more than that. And we're going to take a factor from that number, so call it roughly 50%, and that'll go up or down depending on age and interest rate. Okay, ballpark. And we can do all 49 states, so the one we're not currently in is Massachusetts. So we do a bunch of business there. Sorry, they're not very friendly. And again, people age 62 and up. And then the other one I mentioned to you was the Jumbo Advantage Loan, really where you get up to, once you start getting the home over $1 million, $1.2 million, $1.3 million, it makes sense to start looking at these, just simply because we can advance more than you can with the FHA limit. Okay, so if you work a lot in the very high home values, then hang out with Susan. She'll kind of walk you through what options we have on those. Good? Disclosure. All right, so what I'm going to do now is walk you through a few case studies. So I'm going to walk you through some examples of clients and how they've used this. Okay, we're going to start with somebody that's going to downsize. They have a home for $950,000 home. They're going to move to a $600,000 home. Okay, second one, $550,000 to $800,000. Okay, they're actually going to upsize. That's the thing. I'm going to compare the income qualifications so you can get a little sense of how that works. And then lastly, I'm going to tease you a little bit on this reverse line of credit, just because I think it's super cool. Sound good? So this first scenario, we got a friend here who's 75 years old. He's going to sell and buy a home for $600,000. Okay, here's his scenario. He's going to sell his home. It's worth $950,000. He owns it free and clear. Okay, so he's thinking, sweet, I can go pay all cash. After closing costs, got to do some work on the house, et cetera, he's going to net out $874,000 cash money in his bank. He's pretty excited. You're excited. They find a house for $600,000. This is great. No mortgage, no financing. He's going to need roughly $602,000 to close, which is going to leave him with $272,000 still with his financial advisor in his bank or whatever it is. And not a bad deal, right? No payment required. He'll still pay taxes and insurance just like he otherwise would. And he's got this $272,000 cooking should he need it for some type of purchase or anything down the road. Assuming he can get a 6% growth rate on that $272,000, may or may not, let's go with it. 10 years, that will grow, and he will have $487,000 by the time he is roughly 85. Okay, not bad. Not a bad situation. Access to cash if he needs it, in-home care. Usually average age for that, late 70s, early 80s is when you might need something like that. And so he's got access to some cash here. Now let's show option 2. What if we looked at using a reverse purchase, right, where we're going to finance a portion of this, still not have a monthly mortgage payment, but be able to maintain cash on hand? Okay, what's this going to look like? Same starting point, $950,000, net $874,000, buy for $600,000. The difference now, he can get financing for $328,000. Okay, where'd that number come from? The amount they can get is based on age, interest rate, and the value of their home. Okay, so let's think about this for a minute. If I'm going to lend you money, I'm the FHA. I'm on the hook for it. I'm insuring this, and all I have as collateral is your home. So do I want this thing to go upside down?
No.
I do not, right? If this goes upside down, I lose, right? The funny part is people think, oh, my home went upside down, I lost. No, actually, for the borrower, if it goes upside down, you've won, right? You've had access to more cash than your home is worth. That's actually a victory, so it's kind of counterintuitive. But let's go from the FHA's perspective. I'm the FHA, I'm going to lend the money, okay? Am I going to lend more or less to an older borrower?
More.
More because there's less time for the debt to accrue, right? So I'll actually lend more to an older borrower, okay? Because less time for the debt to accrue, right? I'm assuming you're never going to make a payment. You can't. I'm going to assume I'm going to go worst case scenario. Let's say you never make a payment and I'm on the hook, right? So that's my assumption right here. How about low interest rates? More or less in a low interest rate environment? More in a low interest rate environment because the debt is going to accrue more slowly, right? And now, can I lend more to a higher valued home than a lower valued home? Obviously, right? Yeah. So yeah, I can't lend you $500,000 if you have a $400,000 home, right? If you have $1 million home, I could probably lend you $500,000, right? So what's your scenario here? So older borrower, low interest rates, right? High home value. Can't control age. Don't have a lot of control over that from a timing or economic perspective. What about high home values, low interest rates in order to maximize the loan? Safe to say we're kind of in a high home value, low interest rate environment.
Yeah.
Safe to say we're at risk of that changing? Maybe, right? So timing is really interesting on this right now. We're kind of in this weird, and actually rates have come up a lot. Timing was really good 6-8 months ago, right? Still good, but it's worth looking at now probably more than ever and probably now more than in the future. So just something to think about there. So this is based on his age, current interest rates, apply to the value of the home, and he get 328. So in their case, he only has to put 291.8 down because he's financing the rest, and he's going to be able to keep $582,000 in a savings or investment account. Comparing these two, what does this look like 10 years down the road at 6%? It looks like over $1 million, right? 487 to $1 million. Big difference. Now, could you say, is that an apples to apples comparison? No, because in this case, he owns the home free and clear, right? In this case, they've got debt on the home, so there is less equity here. But when you net them out, he will be hundreds of thousands of dollars ahead here, not to mention it's liquid, meaning he can access it at any point. Huge difference. Is it easy to get a loan when you're in your 70s and 80s and on some type of fixed income? It gets way more difficult, right? So having this in place on the front end makes a huge difference. Right? Having this in place on the front end makes a huge difference. It's a whole different planning universe when you start getting into this phase of life. You with me? Is that kind of interesting? Big difference. Now let's flip it. 65-year-old, they're going to sell 550. They want to move up to $800,000 home. They're close to the grandkids. Grandkids live in a fancy neighborhood. They want to go get there. They want to add a room so the kids will come hang out with them, etc. So they're going to upsize. Sell for 550, end up with 506, buying for 800, nothing here. They're going to take this 500, apply it. They're going to be short $296,000. So they'll go get a traditional loan for the 296. Okay, pretty common scenario. We're going to look at their payments over the next 10 years. They will pay roughly $160,000 in monthly mortgage, just principal and interest payments. Okay, that's their cash flow situation. Again, remember, retirement is a function of cash flow. Cash flow and liquidity, that's the game. Same scenario with the reverse, 550, net 506, buying for 800. Financing, 392. Cash available, 506, same thing. They still have 138 left over. Right? With this financing, not only do they not have to do this, they got 138 left over, 0 payments that have to do over the next 10 years. 0. And by the way, this 138, I didn't even factor this growing at that 6%, but you compound that by 6% over the 10 years, and you're going to end up with not quite a double, but pretty close. So you start seeing the power of this when you look at what people are really trying to solve. It feels very counterintuitive. Right? Kind of the whole concept of we're so used to this traditional mortgage and this payment and the pay off your home mindset. And what you start realizing is that's great when you're in your 30s and 40s. When you start transitioning into retirement, the game is cash flow and access to cash. That's what we want, right? You want to live life at this point. And not having enough cash flow stinks, right? Not having access to cash if something happens stinks. Nobody wants to be calling their kids to help float and meet expenses or come help take care of them, doing all this type of stuff, right? Kids will, but you don't want that to be the plan, right? So this starts changing the conversation around how you can structure the financing of your property. Cash flow and liquidity, very simple stuff. I'm going to show you a little bit. This is going to be a similar scenario. This is going to be a whole bunch of super scary charts right here. Don't freak out. This is the math guy in me. This will mostly make sense. 75-year-old, free and clear home, selling for $650, ends up with $600. They're going to buy a bigger property for $800,000. For very similar to what we talked about before, but I want to show you a comparison when it comes to like a qualification standpoint for the two loans. Traditional, $600, buying for $800, no reverse mortgage. They're going to be short to close $200,000. Okay. With reverse, same scenario. They're going to qualify for $434. They're going to put $365,900 as their down payment, right, which leaves them $234,000 still remaining access to cash should they need it in their brokerage account or savings account. Okay? So we're going to try and do a comparison here. We're going to use this same number that they're going to get a traditional loan using that same $365,000 down to cover that short to close so we can have sort of an apples to apples. Here's what it's going to look like. Their payment on their traditional loan, principal and interest alone, is going to be roughly $1,830 a month. Okay, that's what they'll be looking at in a mortgage payment using a 30-year loan at 3% rate. Rates are probably a little higher than that today, but we'll go with it. Their taxes and insurance, we're going to estimate here at about $600 a month. Okay? Their total PITI, principal, interest, taxes, and income, and insurance is $2,430. So that's what they're going to be all in house payment. So when you go to get a loan, that's what the loan officer's underwriting, right? And what do they use to determine how much you qualify? Something called a debt-to-income ratio, right? Debt-to-income ratio. You've probably heard that term. So using an average number, so they're going to look at all your debt and determine all of your income that will tell them how much you qualify for. So if we reverse that math and say we need to get here, they need to get, assuming they have no other debt, cars are paid off, no other debt, that they're just the home, at a 50% debt-to-income, they need to show $4,860, right, in income in order to qualify for that payment, for you to be able to get them into this house. That sound kind of familiar?
Yeah.
This is how you do it. That's why you make sure they have a loan officer before you start making offers, because they need to make sure you meet that, right? You guys know that drill. So how does that compare from a qualification standpoint? This conversation gets left out a lot. First of all, monthly principal and interest payments, optional, right? Could be zero. Again, you can pay more, pay less, doesn't matter. Go zero. You can actually take money out, by the way, which so you could like make this a cash flow positive. Taxes and insurance, no difference here, still $600. That doesn't change, right? So their total payment, $600. Taxes and insurance. In a reverse mortgage, we do a different calculation. Instead of debt to income, we do what's called a residual income calculation. Essentially, what we want to do, we don't have to underwrite a payment, but we need to make sure they can pay taxes and insurance, because we've learned it's bad when people don't, right? Go figure, that's bad. And we want to make sure they can sort of take care of the home and they've got enough money to eat, right? The goal is not for people to be destitute, right? It's to make sure they're going to be okay. So we look at their taxes and insurance, how many people in the family, the square footage of the home, and that's going to give us a number that they need to qualify. In this example, they need to show $1,878 in order to qualify for the financing on this property. Is that easier than $4,860?
Sure.
By a long shot. What's most people's most basic, simplest form of income in retirement?
Social Security.
Social Security, right? You're probably pretty close, if not over this, with most people's Social Security. So qualification becomes a very different conversation. And now you start looking at these numbers and thinking, oh my gosh, back to we can look at more homes. This all becomes realistic. They just bought a home for $800,000 showing less than $2,000 in income a month. That's an interesting conversation to have when you're looking at what pool of homes are out there for $600,000 or $500,000 and what pool of homes are out there and available at $800,000. Do you agree?
Sure, and
Different
the
pool?
prices are going up.
Yeah, different pool though, right? Totally different world of neighborhoods. And I don't think I need to do the math for you on, you do 3 or 4 of these that would have been 6 and now they're 8. And you factor in whatever you make, 2.5%, 3% on a deal, multiply that by the 4 or 5 deals you're going to do in the year, and you add another 40, 50 grand of income to yourselves by having this conversation. That's not terrible, right? That's a lot of math. that mostly sink in? Yeah, a little bit. All you need to know is this thing's neat and it works, right? Beyond that, call Susan. She's smart. Last one I'm going to show you here, this might hurt your stretcher, hurt your brain, one of the two, all the above. But this is probably one of the most misunderstood things. When I go out and meet with financial advisors, professionals, attorneys, CPAs, insurance people, any of those types of folks, I love to talk about this because none of them understand this, okay? This is a 65-year-old. They have an existing loan on their home of $150,000. The home's worth $750. They're paying $1,200 a month as they're thinking, they're trying to decide if they should sell the home. However, they love their home. They prefer to stay in their home, but they're not sure they can afford it. They're not sure what their options are. But if you could show them a way to stay, they'd sure love it. Do you get paid to tell them to stay in their home? So are you going to tell them that, or are you going to say, you guys need to get out of here, let's go buy you a new home? This place sucks, right? Depends. I don't know. You don't have to answer that question, okay? But I'm going to assume that you know if you do what's right for them, odds are it'll come around to you, right? Odds are, if you've had those conversations with a couple people where you go in and say, you know what, A, you should stay in this home, and by the way, I might be able to introduce you to someone that can show you how. Not only are they going to love you, you know who's probably part of that conversation? If they're in this phase of life trying to make the decision, probably their kids. You better believe their kids are probably adult kids, and they're probably trying to figure out what to do with mom and dad, and you come in to show them how they can stay in here and afford it and finance it. Who's going to become your best friend? Like, do something nice for me, I'll like you. Do something nice for my parents or my kids, I'll love you forever, right? Very different connection and trust that you create by doing that type of thing. So this example, what's this going to look like? In their current world, you're going to walk in, you're going to say, hey, I'd love to sell your home, right? Because I make money when I sell homes, and I'm super good at it, so I'll get you a big, giant chunk of cash. But because you love this place, and because it's going to change your property tax valuation, it's really not going to help much financially, whatever reason it may be, I think I can show you how to stay in this home. Let me introduce you to Susan. Susan goes through, walks the numbers, and comes back with this and says, okay, here's what we can do. Let's take your existing loan, and let's replace it with a reverse line of credit. Because you can qualify for more than the 150, right? So we're going to look at the scenario, and we're going to say, okay, you know what? You qualify for $361,000. Perfect. Let's put that in place. Let's play off the 150. Let's finance any expenses associated. We'll finance the mortgage insurance premium. We'll finance appraisal costs, whatever it is we need to do. Appraisal usually pay, but we'll finance all of these costs. If you have a couple bills outstanding, we'll pay those off, whatever it might be, clean up all their finances. So she's going to do that. They're going to end up with a loan of $173,000 because we have to pay off the old loan. Can't go in second position, right? It's primary position. This leaves them, the whole total line was 361. They have a loan now of 173 that they've paid that's due, and they still have $188,000 available to them, right? Think about it, like a home equity line where you borrowed 173, but your line was 361, right? Same concept. They still have 108 available. And by the way, they still have 577 in equity should they sell the home. Not bad, right? Immediately, this became optional, $1,200 a month. So their cash flow per year just went up by $14,400. Not a bad start, but there's more, right? So here's the cool part. The coolest thing on this is what happens here. We're gonna assume in this scenario. So they could take that $1,200 and just probably pay $800-900 in interest to keep the loan flat and still get a deduction if they wanted it. They can reinvest this. They can use this to go take the kids around the world once a year, right? Whatever it is they want to do, that becomes flexible. We're going to assume they decide they're going to go spend this. So no productive use whatsoever. They're going to blow that money. Cool. Still works, right? So they're never going to make a payment on this loan. So if they never make a payment, what's going to happen to this loan balance? It's going to go up, right? So it's going to go up every single month by the interest that's going to accrue. By the way, they could take income out of it also. Not going to show it in this example, but they're never going to make a payment, so this loan balance is going to go up. Here's the interesting thing. On this one, I think our rate's right around 3%. Yeah, probably right around 3% is the loan rate on this. Interesting feature. The same all-in rate that is going to be charged to their outstanding balance is going to be credited to their full credit line. So I'm going to have 3% increase on my debt. I'm also going to have 3% compounding on my total credit line. So what's more, 3% of 360 or 3% of 170? That one's not the trick question, right? Yeah, so 3% of 360 is more. So you're going to see those numbers spread to where your access to cash grows. Let me show you the numbers. We're going to fast forward 10 years.
Whoa,
Too
you're too
far.
far.
Back it up.
Go back. There we go.
We're 20 years.
Oh, we went out of a,
Yeah, you
what
need to make
happened?
it bigger for the.
I got out of slide mode here. I didn't know I could do that. There we go. I got you. Boom. In 10 years, what happens? We're going to use national average home appreciation of 4%, right? Your market could be different, but humor me. The home value in 10 years is going to be worth $1.1 million. Okay, may or may not happen. Let's roll with it. Their total credit line, that 3% on 361. Let's look at this first section. Their loan balance of 173 is going to compound monthly, and they're going to owe 262 at the end of that 10 years. So they owe more. Here's the trick. That same 3% is compounding on the 361 to where that's now going to grow to a total credit line of $561,000. So they now have access to $300,000 in available credit should they need it for any type of use or purpose. Increasing every single compounding monthly. Pretty cool. Think about this. What's the normal thing people would do if they want to access the equity in their house? What are their options? Home equity line of credit, sell the home, cash out refi. Let's walk through those scenarios real quick. Because again, equity only has economic value to the extent you can access the equity. So how do we historically access equity? Sell the home, good for you guys, right? Not bad, good option. Sometimes that's the right option. A lot of times that's the right option. Well, let's assume it's not. Cash out refi, what's that going to look like? Bigger loan amount, payments probably going up, fair to say. I went from $300,000 loan to a $500,000 loan to get my $200 out, probably going to have a higher payment. Do you want a higher payment when you move into this retirement phase of life? No. What are we playing for? We're playing for cash flow, right? Does not help. How about a HELOC, home equity line of credit? How's that work? First of all, I have to qualify, appraise, get access to a credit line, all that type of stuff. They're cool because they're super inexpensive, essentially free. Great way to access money for a short period of time. Use them all the time. It's a great solution. In fact, there's people we'll talk to, they'll be hitting us up out of reverse, and the answer is just go get a HELOC. It's easier, you only need it for a certain amount of time. Great bridge loan. How do payments work on a HELOC?
They bounce.
Pay interest on what you borrow.
Typically interest only. For how long? 10 years usually, and then what happens? Then it amortizes in a compressed schedule. So most of them are 25-year loans, interest only for the first 10, then you're going to amortize for the remaining 15 to where you've got a principal and interest payment that's going to pay it off in 15 years. What's going to happen to your payment? Up a lot. Is that what you want to happen when you're in retirement? No, we're playing cash flow, right? This does not help. This is bad, right? What if you want more from your HELOC? Requalify, reappraise, go through all that. Is that easy to do again when you're in retirement fixed income? Not easy. Anybody have a HELOC in roughly 2008-ish? Anybody know what happened? You got a call from the bank that said, hey, about that HELOC. Either pay it back or you don't have it or it's gone, the line's frozen. Thank
Whoops. Okay, we're running out of time for today. And so we'll watch the rest of that tomorrow. Just one thing. There are free database systems out there. The board pays for Remind, or we pay. We get it free, but I mean, we pay for it, but through our dues. But Remind, you can go in there and you can find out who's been in their house 20 years. If you've been in your house 20 years, or if you've owned several homes, you can go in there and you can determine pretty accurately a demographic of people 60, 62 and over. So don't hesitate to use that free service that you have. You can also go and you can pay for Vulcan 7. There's a title company that's coming out with a really cool app where you can get phone numbers and email addresses. In any event, you can get a hold of these people in the demographic for reverse mortgages. In the last example that he showed, you're actually helping somebody. And guess what? When you help people and you say, oh, by the way, if you happen to know anybody else that might be interested, please, let me know. The senior communities here are very tight. We started marketing in Sun City back in the early 90s. And as the people they have the fitness center, they have restaurants there, they have the golf courses, everybody knows everybody. So it's a fantastic market for you to farm. And when you can bring to them this type of financial freedom, if you will, for them, where they, I mean, even the last case where you are not, like I said, that one, you're not going to make any money, but you're giving people cash flow, and you're giving their heirs, money for them too. So the bank does not own the home. Just remember that. And hi, good morning, Joan. Joan wants to know, what is the, what title company is coming up with that app? Driggs Title. They're coming up with that app. Really cool app. I had a demo of it last week. Anyway, the point is, get your farm. It's a gold mine. We're not going to have the presentation to give people forever. They have gained equity in their home. They have a potential to get a reverse mortgage. They have a potential to have cash flow and get a line of credit, whatever scenario they want. And we gave you a couple. I just can't, I mean, you know me, I always say if I was in real estate, I'd be doing this because I'm blown away by it. John and I are doing it. We're in the process of it. The neat thing is the debt to income ratio. They're only going to look at your taxes and insurance and then say, okay, well, you make this much in Social Security. And normally it's a no-brainer. Anyway, I've got to go for today. Got a lot of ideas for you for your farm. We might talk about that tomorrow. See if Jimmy's going to join me. We'll see. We have a class tomorrow, so he probably will. We have a contracts class. So this is how to write that purchase contract to win, and all the little nuances that you need to know in today's hectic market with all the multiple offers going on, and how to get your client that deal. So I love you all. See you tomorrow. It's been a fantastic week, and it's only, what is it, Wednesday? I love